Hello and welcome to Trekommendations, the show where a guest helps me navigate through almost 60 years of Star Trek content to find some hidden gems. And this week, beaming in, we have from Star Trek Revisited, Peter Rising. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be here.
I'm very happy to have you here. I've been enjoying seeing you kind of break down some classic TOS. It tells me you're I was gonna say a true fan, but that's not what I mean. It means you'd like to do a deep dive, which helps me. I feel confident that somebody like you will have a very interesting recommendation for us today. But before we get to that, I like to ask some calibration questions. I'm sure you know this, just so we can kind of get a general idea of your tastes. Well, looking at the series you're doing, I feel like I might know the answer to this question, but let's see. You might surprise me. I'm so sorry to tell you that your shuttle has broken down. You need an engineer. In all the world of Star Trek, which engineer are you hoping will turn up to help you out?
That predictably is an easy one for me. I couldn't possibly look past Montgomery Scott. Good old Scotty.
Yeah. Who would be the backup if Scotty's unavailable?
The backup, let's have a think about. Miles O'Brien, easy.
Yeah. I had a feeling. I just had a feeling.
Scottish and
Yeah.
Irish. Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, you can't trust those American engineers. That's what I'm hearing.
There
That's what
you
I'm hearing.
go. all those Klingon ones.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a good answer, actually. Just
Would have been
a
actually.
deep cut from another species. I'd like it. Okay, moving on. Here we go. If you could have in our world any piece of technology that has appeared in Star Trek, and I will have to say you can't say any ship because I'm going to classify that as multiple pieces of technology. If you pick a ship, I'm giving you the empty hull of a ship, and you've got to find somewhere to park it. But if you could have a piece of technology from the Star Trek world, what would it be?
For me, I would have to say it would be the replicator because it's just so convenient and just instantly order any food or drink that you want, and it's at your beck and call. And I'm a foodie, and very much a sweet tooth as well. So I'd be very much like Deanna Troy in Next Generation, be ordering all sorts of chocolate, which would be not doing my big tummy any good.
Yeah. Is there some way that they can make it, you know, it looks like chocolate, it tastes like chocolate, but it has the the nutritional value of of
Of
something else?
broccoli.
Yeah, of broccoli. There you go.
That would be ideal. That would be ideal. If broccoli could taste like chocolate, that would be my life
Yeah.
complete. That would be perfect.
Yeah. Well, we'll explore. I'm sure there's a novel somewhere that explores this, as a deep
Yeah.
dive onto how they work and how they manufacture them to be nutritious no matter what you order. Probably. Um, I know you've been, a Star Trek fan your whole life, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it all. So, in your opinion, who is the most underrated character in Star Trek?
Ooh, that's a really good one. So many to choose from. Do you know what? Sticking to the roots of my channel, I'm going, and I could choose so many if I had enough time to think about it. But the obvious one that immediately pops into my mind is Uhura,
Yeah,
because I mean, she was pioneering for the time in the 60s. But as I'm going through and rewatching these episodes that I've watched many times through different phases of my life, a child and teenage years, and now I'm 53, I find something new each time. But this time I've noticed that I'm appreciating Uhura more and more, and also wishing that she could do so much more. But at the time, it was groundbreaking the little that she did get to do. But I think she was
yeah,
very underappreciated.
yeah. It's interesting. I was listening to an audiobook the other day, and it was set in the original series sort of era, and it was
Mm,
interesting how they were using Uhura because she was so competent, and she was, she
mm,
really helped out in this, and she sort of spotted something that everybody else missed, and it was
yeah,
because of her kind of background in communications and things like that, and she worked out something. And I do think that's really nice that, obviously, as pioneering as Star Trek was in the 60s, it was still limited when we
Mm,
look at it with the most modern lens. And I love
yeah.
that those characters, while pioneering, can still be used and can still be used to sort of say, well, they had the core concept of this great character and they did a bit with her, and look what else we can use her for.
Mm.
And the roots are there and we can develop it now as well. So I think that's a really good shout. Yeah, excellent. I like the answer. Okay, good. I mean, no, okay. Well, replicators weren't in the original series, were they? They had the so
Food
oh did
synthesizers, they were called. Yeah,
yeah,
not
yeah.
quite the
So
same.
I was gonna
But
say
yeah,
that all your answers had sort of pointed us in one direction, but then I checked myself because like, no, that's not true. That's not true.
yeah,
He's
exactly.
just popping over to the Enterprise D to grab himself something from the
Mm.
replicator before heading back to the original Enterprise. Got it.
Exactly, exactly. Bit of a detour.
A bit of a detour. Right. Well, I am just going to add to our video here a clock. Don't panic, but I hope you know what this means.
I do.
Peter, in 60 seconds or less, could you please tell us your Trekommendation and why you've brought it to the show?
Okay, this is my recommendation. It is the Star Trek Starfleet Technical Manual, first published in 1975. This is the 20-year anniversary special edition of that book from 1986, which I bought back in 86 when I was much, much younger. I love this book so much because if you're a total Trek geek like me, it has things like this, plans and uniforms from the original series era and starship designs, and you can really geek out on all this stuff. It's so good. I mean, it's got the shuttlecraft specs in there that you can see. It's really an absolute joy. And if you're a book smeller like me, then oh wow, just the old smell of this is just so superb. And something I really like about it as well is it correctly lists the USS Farragut as one of the 13 original Constitution class starships, not the rubbish that they're trying to palm us off with on Strange New Worlds, as it being some sort of Miranda class version of that. So there you go. So no, I love this book. I would recommend it to anyone if you could get your hands on a copy.
Oh, that was amazing. Look at that. Just in time.
Yay.
Brilliant. Um, I mean, I love that there was even a subtle dig at Strange New Worlds in there as well. So that was very impressive. Very, very impressive. So you bought that new when it came out, did you
I
say?
did. I
And
did.
is
I
that
remember
that
the
is the very
yeah.
same copy, yeah?
The very same copy, yeah. I didn't know where it was for years, and I used to have so much more Star Trek memorabilia. There is an outside chance that some of it still is in my dad's loft. I'm
Right.
holding out hope, and I might go and have a look one of these days. But I found some in my garage after when you move house and you don't unpack for 10 years certain boxes, and then you find these things, and I found this and a Next Generation companion book, and the original movie magazine of Star Trek for the Voyage Home, just a few random small pieces of what was a very extensive collection back in the day. So I hope I find more of it. But yeah, I had so much back in the day when I was really at the peak of my fandom, and then I sort of went away a bit from Star Trek for a few years. But in the last 5 or 6 years, I've definitely dived back in and rediscovered my huge passion for it.
Yeah. Well, I think if you've got something like, I mean, there's casual viewers, right? Oh, it's on,
Mm,
I'll watch it. Or especially when, when these shows originally aired, and even,
mm,
not even like the original series, but even when you jump to kind of your next gen DS9 stuff like that, when they originally aired, you were still kind of picking between four channels, and so it was
yes.
sort of like if Star Trek's on, okay, that's the best of a bad bunch. I'll watch that. So you've got kind of those viewers. You've got
Mm,
your no, it's appointment viewing. I'm watching every episode, and I've seen every
hmm.
episode, and I know Star Trek pretty well. And then you get to that next level, right, where it's, as you said, why are they saying the Farragut is this class of ship? That's completely incorrect. Here's the manual. Let me show you.
Yes.
So I think we've seen where you sit, which is nice. Um,
Mm.
was it like that from you from the very beginning when you first started watching Star Trek? Were you like, I must consume every
Oh yeah,
detail of this? Yeah.
absolutely. I was obsessed, and it was hard back in those days when I mean when I first started watching Star Trek with my mother in the late 70s, this was pre even having video recorders, VCRs. So you could only watch Star Trek when it was on, and then you couldn't watch it again until it was on again. And eventually, in the early 80s, we got our first top loading VCR, and you could start recording things off the TV and buy from shops these, and eventually they started releasing the original series, and from that was when I really properly watched Star Trek and was able to drill down into the finer details and become an absolute nerd about it and know the registration numbers of the ships and which deck Kirk's quarters was on and all that sort of stuff, the real finer details. So yeah, that was important to me. I there was a time when this is the geek level of me where I could actually recite in production order every original series episode from The Cage right to Turnabout
Oh,
Intruder. I couldn't do it now, I don't think. I could probably have a decent go at it, but but that's the level.
yeah. Okay. Well, I won't ask you to do that now then. You did say you could have a decent go at it. Um,
Yeah.
I suppose was it something then? So when did you buy the book? Sorry, you said in
1986. Yeah.
1986. Yeah.
So I would have been, how old would I have been in 1986? I would have been around, my maths is terrible. I was about 15. Yeah, about 15 I would have been.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, here's a question: did you buy? Was that like you used your own pocket money to buy this kind of thing, or was this you begged mum to get it for you because she also likes Star Trek?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact specifics, but I always had enough pocket money to get what I wanted. And actually, I say I was 15. Actually, I was probably 86. I would have been closer to 13. So 1988, I would have been 15, and that was the year that I started work. Because my birthday is
Yeah.
in the summer, and I just turned 16 a few weeks after starting my first job, which was working in a department store in the city of Newcastle in the UK.
Yeah.
And that was really great for me, being around the town, and you could go out at lunchtime and visit Forbidden Planet, which had opened there not too long since, and HMV was all the rage then, and you can go in and buy the cassettes. So any money that I had from either pocket money or a couple of years later from my meager apprentice wages would go on anything like that. I would go and buy the DC comics from Forbidden Planet or figures or anything I could get my hands on, basically.
Did you go as sort of deep dive on other fandom as well as much as Star Trek, or was Star Trek kind of the
Mm.
big one for you? Were you getting schematics of, I don't know, the Batmobile or anything else, or you were like, no, 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 it's Star Trek is the one that that's my,
Yeah,
I don't want to say obsession. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean.
I would say Star Trek has always been the number one. I am very, very close to being equally as much of a Star Wars geek. Star Wars and Star Trek are my top two. After that, if you had to pin me down on a couple, these might seem quite obscure actually, but I'm a massive, massive Babylon 5 fan,
Right.
and also a massive, massive Highlander fan. So those I would say are my top four favorite series in the sci-fi stroke fantasy genre ever.
Yeah.
And I like everything. I like a bit of Superman and Indiana Jones and Batman and all that stuff. And but those are my top ones definitely. And Star Trek, undisputed number one.
Yeah. I like that there was a very much a space theme in all of these.
Yeah.
Like it was like Star Trek, Star Wars, and then oh, hold on, here's one that might shock you. Babylon 5. Okay, we're back in space. and then really a turn with Highlander. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not sci-fi. And then I thought, well, Highlander too. sort of
Yeah, less said about that one, the better.
sort of sci-fied it up a bit, didn't it? So
Mm,
okay. That's interesting. So with the book, you said there's quite a lot there, right? So
yeah.
it's not just so you mentioned there's sort of like, the cross section of the ship. You've got all the decks and where everything is and look at that. What other kind of gems am I finding in there? If I was gonna like be Peru, what am
Oh,
I?
wow.
I like the idea of I'm flicking through, just having a quick look.
Yes.
What are the pages that I'm like, oh, hold on, and I'm stopping.
Well, let's see. I have, oh, this is the one that always catches my eye. Get the official type style and the official uniform color code, which is just the best as far as I'm
That is
concerned.
good.
So and this one here, this is shiny. This almost like sticker
So
paper quality, and it's lasted well considering it's goodness knows how old, 1986.
what does it say for the uniform color code? I'm curious because of the
Yeah.
all the statements about how it should have been green, not
Yes.
gold. What is it in the book?
Well, this now that you mention it, there's awful lot too many of them if I think about it, and I'm wondering because this is only the original series. This is not going into the movies in any
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. So I'm wondering where they're getting a lot of these from because there's lots of greens and lots of yeah. Authentic, and it's even got actually, it's authenticated on a star date 7407.04, and that tallies with the motion picture that the sevens of star dates. So maybe it is sort of adding some of that detail in as well.
Mm,
Not that I've noticed any other post TOS
yeah.
the series references in there, but equally, I mean, you've got all sorts of logos in here of like Alpha Centauri, and I don't
Mm,
know if this book would necessarily be considered canon, um, but do you know what? I think canon is. I go along the lines of we've all got our own head canon, and I think that's fine. I think you can make out of Star Trek whatever you want it to be in your own head canon, and we had that joke about Strange New Worlds, and I like Strange New Worlds for the most part. I watch it. I've watched every Star Trek ever, and I probably always will. But there are things where I have problems with the
yeah.
continuity of it. But you can take it or leave it, and but enjoy it for what it is. Here's the UFP United Federation of
Flag.
Planets logo. So it's literally a absolute treasure trove of. I mean, they've got peace treaties in here as well, pages and pages of Starfleet technical orders and peace treaties. You can imagine the me of that time just consuming this, and um, there's even uniform patterns for male and female designs. So there's one of the famous Lieutenant Uhura Nurse Chapel style female
Yeah.
uniforms there, and but yeah, just so
Is
much.
there is there a way like it's I mean, I'm assuming it's been structured in a specific way. Is it kind of like categorized in a certain way, or does it feel a bit
Yeah.
random of okay, we're going to put this here and then this there, or because I guess it's not really a book I mean, would you sit down and read that cover to cover, or you would sit down and be like,
No.
oh, I want to go and look up this, I want to go and look up that? Like, what
Yeah.
was your initial approach when you first got it?
Yeah. I just flicked through it and I found points of interest. It's not something I've ever read cover to cover,
Right.
if I'm honest, and I probably never would or will. But but yeah, it is laid out in a very logical way. I mean, when you get to divisions on a starship, it goes through command and science and medical, engineering, security. So it lays everything out in a logical order, and it starts at the very beginning. It starts out with you get the articles of the Federation there, which really takes me back, to be honest. Or AFEDs, I think they used to get called in fandom back in the day. So yeah, it starts out with the principles of the Federation and Starfleet and pages of text. I mean that's something that gosh, there's some really dry content in that. Like the Economic and Social Council may make or initiate studies and reports with respect to interplanetary economic, social, cultural, education, and it goes on and on. So
Yeah.
I'm never going to read all of that. I like the. I mean, that's a great page all about the
Oh, the
tricorder,
tricorder.
science tricorder, and it's just the detail and pointing to what button does what, and that's what I wanted from this book. And there's your hand phaser Type 2
Yeah.
classic. So it's really detailed.
I think it's nice. Like comparing it to the book that my mum brought on in episode one, that was kind of
Yeah.
the like this is the actual tricorder. It's made out of a shoebox that we found over here. Sort of like it's the very
Yes.
kind of realistic the realism of the show, and like how it was it's
Mm,
pulling back the curtain and showing it. And then this is the absolute opposite of like, no, when it's on screen, this is the tricorder, and this is actually what we're
yeah.
claiming every button does and everything. And I kind of love that contrast where
Mm,
you're reading this book as if this is this is, I'm living in that universe. This is
Oh,
I've
very much.
somehow been given these schematics, and I suppose
Mm,
going back, now we have so much content, like, we have so much content, just quantity, and then we have access to it because I can just Google something, or I can stream an old
mm.
episode, or I can, uh, but back then, like, this was how you created, new content in your. We talked of headcanon, like this is where you're kind of coming up with interesting things in your head. Okay, oh well, I suppose when this happened on the ship, probably, like, they would have. This is what they would have been thinking about, or maybe this is a
Yes.
treaty that they might have had in the back of their mind, and why they didn't do that on that planet.
Mm,
And I think it's
exactly.
interesting that, because it was written, it's kind of pure in the sense that it was written down all that time ago, and because it's a book, it can't be changed. So,
Yes.
like, web articles can be modified and edited and updated because we've got new canon, and actually we something happened different. But this is what people understood at that point in time, and I think that's very
Exactly.
interesting, because you can actually
Yeah.
use that to kind of, oh, it's interesting that they've changed. They've changed this because, back in the 80s, they were saying it was this. So I do think there is something about having the physical. As somebody who reads everything on an iPad, I do feel like there's something nice about having kind of that physical, unaltered version of
Yes, it is what it
the
is, and
thing.
it's never going to be changed. But yeah, I mean, it does take me back to a time as well that where I mean, everything's at your fingertips now. It's an iPad, an iPhone, or whatever device you use. It's just there instantly on demand for you. And it wasn't like that when I was growing up. And as I said, we didn't have VCRs until I was about 10 years old, and then internet. Wow, probably talking mid late 90s when when that started coming in. But and then you were in dial-up modem as well, so again showing my age. But
Yeah. No one else could use the phone in the house because
yes,
it's
absolutely, absolutely. Gosh, the kids today, they've got no idea. My
true. Yeah. So when so when you're seeing things like, so there's a thing that happens, because I'm, you know I I've had this conversation with people in the past as well about, obviously, especially when you do prequel stuff,
Hmm,
it's gonna look different because
yes.
it's, of course, it has to look different, because no
Hmm,
modern television studio is going to greenlight you making a show that looks like it was recorded in the 60s. That's just not going to happen. Stuff won't work with modern modern cameras, modern televisions are not as forgiving as they would have been in the past.
yeah.
So I understand that things they have to look good on screen. They have to be updated, and I'm not as much of a purist as others are at times. Sometimes some things are silly, like let's bring. I don't really like when this is meant to be a positive show. I shouldn't be saying any of this stuff, but like, suddenly we've got Star Wars style holograms that we're talking to on a ship, when
Yes.
we only ever had view screens, even through kind
Hmm.
of next gen and beyond. But now, pre TOS, we've got holograms, and then they kind of wrote that out and they retconned that a bit, sort of thing. So I understand when people are a bit like, this is crazy, but with the way things look, I sort of get it. But for you, having kind of all this nostalgia built into, the detail of
Mm,
what how do you feel when you watch something like Strange New Worlds and you're seeing the equipment and you're like, is it
yeah.
kind of, does it lose a bit of that luster for you, because you're like, oh, I just kind of
Mm.
I really love the
In
old stuff.
s- Yeah, in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. When it comes to the ship, the Enterprise, and how it looks, I think they've done a wonderful job. I think it looks amazing and appropriate for an updated version of
Mm,
that TOS Enterprise, the 1701, the original. And the bridge of the Enterprise as well. I mean, when I first saw the bridge of the Enterprise updated in Discovery, as it was in the last two episodes of season two, I was blown away. I thought, this is perfection. They've made it look modern but respectful. It honors the original style, and they continue that into Strange New Worlds. What I've not liked is the uniforms, any version of the uniforms that they've tried
Right.
for the Strange New Worlds crew. Those ones with the big black collars in Discovery, and these ones that the ones in the series are a little better than that, I think. But I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to uniforms. I really would have liked if they'd made a bit more effort to make them look more like they were in the cage with the
Mhm.
non-black collar,
Oh,
and
right.
the sort of, but I mean, not looking like 60s velour, but a bit of
Yeah.
a more sort of fit better,
So
because if you, yeah,
so do you feel that they've done like a modern spin on Kirk's uniform, and they
yes,
should have done a modern spin on Pike's uniform from the cage? Is that
exactly that, exactly
that's
that,
interesting?
because, and I see why they've done it, because that's the iconic 60s TOS look, and
Yeah.
they probably think people will know that more than uber geeks like me who know the cage inside and out, and so I see why they've done it, but it bothers me probably more than it should.
Right. Got
But
you.
and the other thing is some of the liberties that they take with the characters as well is the other sort of negative side of things, particularly Pike. Now, when Pike came into Discovery, Anson Mount, I thought he was perfect. He even looked a bit like Jeffrey Hunter. They dyed his hair
Mm,
darker, and he had the sort of slick back hairstyle. And over time in Strange New Worlds, I feel they've turned him into a bit of a caricature, and a much less serious character. And that Pike's Peak, as they call it, that whole quiff that he's got going on, it's become a character of itself. And again, it's something that probably bothers me more than it should, because I feel as Anson Mount has got more into the role, and
yeah.
as actors like to do, and fair play to them, made it more his own. I feel he's become less like Pike, as I think of Pike, as Jeffrey Hunter, and more his interpretation of it. So
Yeah.
I do love him. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of it is writing and costume and makeup style, and what he's told to do, and he just goes with it because it's his job. But I wish that they'd kept on with the more stoic, more serious Pike that we saw in Discovery, rather than the jokey, a bit too familiar with his own crew, cooking them meals in
Mm.
his quarters. I don't like
It's
that.
really funny because I was just the other day thinking about Pike in Discovery, and I was thinking a very similar sort of, and you've maybe articulated it better than I could have, but I was just thinking, oh, I just remember when Pike showed up in Discovery, I was like, this is like, you know,
Mm,
everyone's clamoring for like this Star Trek Legacy series. They're like, oh, we'd love a Legacy series
yeah,
because I'm I don't really mind what the next series is. Like, I'm just happy for there to be more Trek, to be honest. But
yeah.
I was when and you mentioned the bridge, and when there was that scene, and it was like that kind of the final battle, and they were cutting between the bridge of the Enterprise and the bridge of
Mm,
Discovery and the bridge of the Enterprise, and every time they were cutting back to the bridge of the Enterprise, I was just like, "This is the show I want." And it would just
yes.
click every time. I was just like, "No, but this is the show I want." And Pike was
Hmm.
amazing, and I was like, "And this is the captain I want, and this is the show that I
Hmm.
want." And now we've got
Yeah,
it, and I still am very positive towards Strange New Worlds,
yeah.
and I am very hopeful for season 4. Very hopeful. Like,
Mm,
I think with the setup of, like, at the end of season 3, I know people weren't always super happy with the finale, and it's kind of felt like it could have finished the whole thing, but I look at that as, well, doesn't that set us up nicely going forward? We're gonna go out and
yeah.
find some planets and have some adventures. Yay. So I'm very positive, but I absolutely understand what what you mean. So that is interesting. Okay. I'm curious, if you had the opportunity to kind of have discuss. So, like, now again, we've got podcasts, we've got
Mm,
forums, we've got all these conversations, and people will, at nauseum discuss the tiniest detail that they've found in something. For you, young Peter growing up in Newcastle, did you get much opportunity to pull the book out and be like, well, actually, let me show you something really cool and from Star Trek? Or, like, did you have apart from, you know, you've said your mum was
Yeah.
a fan, but like, I don't know, school friends, other people, was Star Trek widely discussed?
Yes, for me it was 15 to I don't know, early 20s, because I discovered in Newcastle a local Star Trek fan club that met in once a month in Newcastle in the local library, and they would show the latest episodes, which of Next Generation at the time, which were coming over from the States, and we would get them a bit earlier through various means and show them. And excuse me. And I built up a great group of friends and a community there, and discussed things uh, at length, with people who, some were as geeky as I were, some weren't so, and that's fine. And we went to conventions as well. I mean, we did all the stuff that goes on today, except it wasn't cool. we were. I was born in the wrong time, Jason. Because when I was growing up, you were looked at as like, being nerdy or geeky wasn't considered a good thing. And now it is.
Right.
It's cool now. So I feel like I was born in
Yeah.
the wrong time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because I think when I was at school, like, I I I can think of maybe one kid at school that once said he watched Star Trek and was absolutely ripped to shreds for his opinion, sort of thing, and that was it. Like, yeah, I was definitely sci-fi. Anything like that was not cool. Especially, I went to a school that had like a really good sort of sports base as well, and so everybody was kind of like, you know, you talked about football and you talked about rugby and you talked about that and nothing else. And I was like, I do not
Mm.
care about any of these things. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I think my kids, you know, growing up now, good for them. They can enjoy
Yeah,
all of these things, and you know, and Dad's got a podcast. He's crazy.
absolutely. No, it's brilliant.
Okay, well, I love the book. I love it as a suggestion. I think that's uh, a great recommendation. Uh, I think, as I said, I think it's one of the things where I could probably go out and find most of that information online
Yeah.
in different places, but I'd love to know. I'd love the kind of security of knowing this is what was written down back then, before other stuff was added, before, you know, we had what we have now, before they decided that actually maybe this character is related to that, or maybe actually that's not quite what they meant with it. But just back then, what did people believe to be the
Mm.
staples and the fundamental sort of structure to the world of Star Trek? Not just the TV series, not just the episodes, but the whole kind of universe that it's set in. And I think it would be so hard to put that in a book now,
Oh,
because
yeah,
there's
definitely.
just so much. So it's like a little time capsule as well, which I think is really cool. I like it. I love it. What a great
Oh,
recommendation.
well, thank you. I'm sure there's probably copies of it kicking around on eBay if anyone wanted to
Yeah.
go and have a look for one. You can get anything with the power of the internet these days. If you want it badly enough, you'll find it. So I do highly recommend it, though. It's a great book, and it smells great as well if you can get an old one.
Yeah. I love, yes, you've got to make sure it's old, make sure it passes the smell test as well.
Exactly.
Just people rummaging around bookshops now, just sniffing. Doesn't smell good enough.
That's all. That's what I
Yeah.
do in bookshops.
Yeah, Peter said this one would smell really good, and I think I can find another one that smells better, so I will put that back and find another one. Great. I mean, I'm toying with an idea. I don't even know if I should say this now on the podcast, but I am toying with the idea of, if I ever made like a Patreon, of doing a series of videos, maybe like once a month, where I have tracked down a recommendation and
Yeah.
then I review it. So I'm like, oh, this guest recommended this book. I found the book. I've read the book. This is what I think of the book. So that's an idea for the future. Let's see. So
Oh, what a great idea
yeah,
as well. And
yeah,
you've got, as I say, you've got other tools at your fingertips. If anyone listening is old enough to remember an old Yellow Pages advert with this old character called J.R. Hartley ringing around trying to find his own book, he'd have a much easier time these days. He'd be just right on the internet
Yeah.
and there's a copy. So
Yeah. And then you find out how much it's worth now. He's like, what? I didn't make that much. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, I think it's a great choice, Peter. I really appreciate you bringing it to the show. Of course, at this point, I I flip things back to you, and I ask if the audience that we assume is in the millions at this point, maybe, if the audience could ever help you. You've obviously consumed a huge amount. So you said you've watched every episode, you've seen everything, you've been to conventions, you've done a lot. Is there any stone of the fandom that you have left unturned that you would
Mm.
think, oh, if I was ever to explore that, I wouldn't mind a recommendation in this area?
Oh, right, interesting. I mean, what would be really cool actually is a bucket list item for me would be to go and see one of the official sets that's over in the States from at the fan show Star Trek Continues, which is superb, by the way. If you've ever seen it, it's on YouTube. But the original sets of the Enterprise reconstructed accurately to scale, beautifully done. I'd love to go and visit that. So it would be really cool if somebody had experience of going there and shared that experience. Maybe some cool photos. Maybe they got to meet some of the production people or the stars of the show. Just stories like that, I think, would be really, really nice. Anything behind the scenes is always really cool, right?
Nice. Okay, I like it. That's a really it's interesting because that's not just that. Oh, go read this book. That's I want to
Yeah.
absorb. I've absorbed the books. I need to absorb other people's experiences. That's more what I want.
Yeah,
Uh, that's nice. That is cool.
exactly.
Okay.
I've got to get over there at some point, and I want to get the command yellow shirt, or well, no, not necessarily. And I want to get my picture in Captain Kirk's chair.
Yeah.
I just need a picture of me in that chair. That chair is just the chair of all bridge captains' chairs. It's just the best.
Yeah, oh, you've just reminded me of another calibration question I wanted to write down, and I didn't the other day, so I'm gonna have to write that
Ah.
down soon. But that's yeah, people keep doing this, guess safe stuff, and I go, oh yeah, that's a question
Make it
I've
up.
got for a future episode. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come and share this recommendation with us. Greatly appreciate it. So, Peter, if people want to see what you are doing, where is the best place for them to find you and follow your journey at the moment?
Okay, yes. So you can find me on Instagram and YouTube, both at Star Trek Revisited, all one word. And it's very new. I'm just been going a month or so, but it's something I've been thinking about doing for a very long time, going through and rewatching every episode from the very beginning. I intend to go as far as I can. I'm going to keep on going through the movies, Next Gen, DS9, the lot, right to the modern stuff. So enough content there to keep me going a very long time. So YouTube's where I'm at for the most part, and my Instagram there is really to interact with people a bit more, but hopefully direct people to the channel if I'm being totally honest. And I have a tech channel as well, which is Microsoft based, which I've been running for a few years. So if you're into Microsoft related technology and want to do study guides and learning, I'm at Peter Rising M365 as well. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent. Okay, I love it. I love that we've got the opportunity to also learn something. You know, as much I was going to say, learn something useful. You know what I mean? You know, Star Trek's
Always be
wonderful.
learning.
It's lovely to know more about that. Deep dive into the episode's
Yeah.
great. But then it's like, and also here's something probably quite practical that you could use in your daily life as well.
Yeah, that's my day
Thank you
job.
very much, Peter. And if anybody isn't already, following the channel, head on over there, subscribe to it, support it, leave a comment on one of his videos. You can also do the same for us. So if you want to leave a comment on this video, if it's hard to always get through watching them, I realize that to sit down and watch an episode takes time. It's also available as an audio podcast on all the podcasting apps. So feel free to listen there or share that with other people. That would be great. And as always, any kind of comments or sharing or anything like that helps the channel grow, which is good for me because it opens the avenues to get more guests on and more recommendations. So that's the goal. So thank you again to Peter for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening or watching. And I will see you next week with another guest and another recommendation.